Miso is a soybean product. It's made from soybeans that have been cooked and then they're fermented with salt. And you usually have lots of different types of misos because the soybeans will be mixed with different types of grains. The reason that we eat this is because miso soup is really rich in healthy enzymes and bacteria for the intestines. So it really aids digestion. So make sure you get an unpasteurized one. The mellow misos, the white light ones, usually like 3 to 6 months. And the darker ones can be up to 2 to 3 years or even longer. Misos do not go bad because, again, it's fermented with salt, and salt is a preserver. Just like you mix it with raw cabbage, you create sauerkraut, which lasts a long time. Just remember in general that minerals preserve, minerals strengthen, and these foods will not go bad. If you do live in a really hot climate, though, you probably want to keep them refrigerated because they'll just keep fermenting. But if you live in a temperate climate, you really don't have to worry about it. These would be used in our miso soup that we're going to be preparing later. 2 different types of sea vegetables here. And there are actually more sea vegetables than there are land vegetables. Dulse was used a lot of times in traditional potato soups or corn chowders. Almost always have dulse in their recipes, in their traditional recipes. Very high in iron. So if someone's suffering from anemia, they can eat dulse. And the thing about dulse, what's so nice is I could just chomp into this one right now. You can eat dulse raw, but it's better to cook it. And it's great because it just dissolves in your soup. You don't even know it's there. So you can just put in a handful into your soup or stew and it's dissolved. This other one that I held up is called wakame. Wakame is also used in soup and it also dissolves very nicely. And wakame is really, it's really beautiful. One time I saw a big strand of it and it kind of looks like a hula skirt almost. How it's so beautiful, and these are very powerful foods. These withstand the crashing of the waves, and again, they're harvested from waters that are very clean. I always suggest that you buy your sea vegetables from the health food store because there is more care taken in where these things are harvested from. And this one actually, some of these are from the Orient, but a lot of them are harvested off the coast of California, and this one's off of the coast of Maine. The first soup that we're going to do is a burdock squash. I'm going to get my squash and burdock here to show you. This is burdock root. This is its natural color. It's brown. This is a small one. Usually you find them really big, but this is the only one that they had in the store today. If you're walking through the field and burrs get stuck on you, chop out that plant and get that burdock root underneath because it's one of the strongest vegetables that we have. You can see that burdock root could look like 2 legs here. Roots really nourish the lower parts of the body. So I love to use them in my cooking. Okay? I could just grate it on my grater. If you cut things smaller, they cook faster, right? But all I'm going to do is just chop this one fine because we'll have a little bit of time here to cook. Again, I'm holding my left hand, because I'm right-handed, as if I'm holding a golf ball in my hand, so the knife can just kind of glide off here and I don't chop off any fingers. Very important to concentrate while you're cooking so that you don't lose anything. Again, a strong root, we don't need to eat too much of it, so I'll save some of this for later. That's going to be our first ingredient. All we're going to do is just saute that quickly in a little bit of oil when we get to the stove. The second ingredient is a buttercup squash. You've probably seen this in the natural food store. Again, just as the roots support the lower part of the body, squash nourishes the middle part of the body, the stomach, spleen. I had already cut it. All I did was cut it in half, whip out my seeds, and I just always cut down the sides here like this, and then just chop it into pieces. And again, if I'm in a rush, cut them small. If I have a little bit of time and this is going to have a good half an hour to cook, cut them big, because the bigger I cut them, the sweeter it'll be, because more of the sweetness will stay in the vegetable. Okay, so that'll be our second ingredient in that soup. And our third ingredient is going to be the leek. Here's our leek. A lot of people don't know that you can definitely use the whole thing. We're even going to use the roots today. All these vegetables, again, are grown organically, And so that means that they don't have any pesticides and fertilizers and all that on them. And they're really rich in vitamins and minerals, more so than commercially grown vegetables. Studies have shown this, that they're much stronger. So what I'm going to do, oh, I forgot to show you, all I did was I cut it in half this way down, and then I rinsed it underneath the sink, because lots of times little bits of dirt can get stuck up in here. So I rinsed it, and now I'm cutting it for my dish. I'm going to just cut my roots fine. And this part that gets a little bit closer up here where it's a little bit dirty, just going to set that to the side, and we don't have to use that. We have enough minerals in the fruits and vegetables, we don't have to eat the dirt, I hope. And so then I'm just going to cut my leek here. Use the tops, use the bottoms, use every part of the vegetable that you can. Always staying focused, always concentrating on what you're doing. Okay, that's going to be our third ingredient in that soup. And then the last thing, when we're seasoning up at the stove, we're going to season it with the miso and with the fresh ginger. I've talked about ginger before. Ginger is, it nourishes, in Chinese medicine, it nourishes the lung, large intestine. So it helps to just move things through the body. It's a pungent flavor. So we're going to grate it and season it at the end with that one. So that's our first soup. Okay, we'll get that all going when we get to the stove. The second soup, very simple. It's going to be a creamy onion and corn soup. I already chopped up my onion because one of the shows that we taped, I was doing it on the show and crying all over the place, so I learned my lesson on that one. So all I did was, as usual, I cut my onion in half. I put the root side of the onion away from me, and then I cut down here, cut down along the lines of the onion, turned it around, and then chopped down. And then I just got a nice diced onion. Any way that it works for you, just dice up your onion. Try to not talk while you're doing it, because then when you breathe through your mouth, then you don't cry. But when you're talking and chopping onions, then that's when you cry. So, and then the second ingredient in that soup is our sweet corn. Again, organic sweet corn. All I did was chop this in half, took off the kernels, and I had the cobs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook these cobs in the water for a little while so that they get really sweet. And that can be up for 15 to 20 minutes if you have the time. And if you don't have the time to even use fresh corn and you want to make this soup, just chop up your onions and use some frozen corn, and that works great too. Ready to start cooking up at the stove. I just have a regular pan here, warmed it up a little bit on the flame. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of oil. If you want to add oil because you might be cold in the wintertime or you might be lower in weight, add a little bit of oil. If you're overweight, you don't have to add oil. You can just saute this with water. Just adding my burdock slices to it. Just need to saute just a little bit. The oil helps to release the oil-soluble vitamins and minerals in the burdock. I'm going to put my buttercup squash in right away. You can hear it sizzling here. I'm going to wait on the leek because they only need a little bit of time. Now I'm going to add some water. I like to add only enough water to barely cover the vegetables, because if I would add a whole pan of water to only a few vegetables, I'd have a real watered down soup. So I try to keep the water just over the vegetables. My lid. Here's my lid for this one. Okay, our last soup that we're going to get going here, remember I mentioned I wanted to cook those corn cobs down? So I had my corn cobs in the water cooking. So now we have real nice sweet water here that we're going to use as a stock. Just add a pinch of salt. Here are my onions. I'm going to get a little bit more heat going there. Now the onions can be kind of gaseous for people, so I always cook onions with the lid off until they're bright and clear, or they're kind of dull and clear actually, because then I know all that gaseousness is kind of floated away. This again also only takes about a minute for it to cook, and then I'm going to add my corn in and then possibly puree it. So our squash is like finished. It goes so quickly. I'm just going to add my leek to it. Okay, and that again just needs a couple of minutes. Stir that in there just a little bit. let that finish cooking. Our onions are already clear in their color, so I'm going to add my corn to that. And let that cook just for a couple of minutes now. I forgot to add the wakame to our soup here, our burdock soup. So I'm just going to add that little piece of wakame in there. It cooks really instantly, and I should have added it at the beginning, but I forgot. I usually measure, if you're doing this at home, do 1 teaspoon of miso per cup of liquid. Now, if we had a second longer, what I would do is I would pop this in the blender and whisk it. I mean, pop it in the blender and blend it. And then garnish it with a little bit of dill. That would be phenomenal. This one's also finished, but what I'm going to do with this one is use the dark miso. Same thing, a teaspoon per cup of liquid, okay? So all I do here is let it cool down just a little bit, whisk in my miso. If you wanted to make a combination of the different misos, a brand that I really like is South River Miso in Massachusetts. They make some phenomenal miso right here in the United States. Okay, and that one's finished. And what you could do at the end of this one, like I mentioned, is, is get some ginger root. Here's our ginger root, fresh ginger. Okay, all we would do is grate it. And I don't need to peel it, but all I would do is grate it and squeeze a little bit of the juice in there. Okay, if I had more time, I would take a big bunch of it and squeeze the whole thing in there. Just remember to chew your food. You're taking this time to prepare it, chew it, say a quick prayer, any kind that you want, and that's all for now. So see you next week.